I remember when I first met you in the fall of 2021. You were a freshman, and the Tokyo Olympics had just happened.
Right.
And you told me about the story of the qualification process for you. Could
Yes.
you remind me of what happened back in 2021 or in 2020 for those Tokyo Games?
Yeah. So for me, I just need to go like the eight cut to qualify, and because we don't have like enough athletes, so basically it's the top two, and I was the second, but I didn't have the eight cut, so I needed to get it. And we had like two meets that I could do it. I think if I remember correctly, the first one was December 2020, and I went my best time by like probably a second, and I was like 0.09 from the A cut. And I wasn't even upset about it. I was like, oh, yay. Like, I called my mom. I was like, oh my God, like, I can do it. Like, it's so fun. And like, I'm so close and like so happy about it. And then I had like, I don't know, 6 months until the next one. And then the last chance was probably a month before the Olympics. And I didn't get it. I went like 4 seconds slower, probably. So I basically missed the Olympics by 0.09 seconds, which is like if you try to like stop it on the stopwatch, you can't do it. It's like so fast. And yeah, that's the story.
How did that make you feel, especially that freshman year at the time?
Well, obviously I was really upset about it, and also like my brother made it, so I like really wanted to be there for him and like be happy for him and like watch the Olympics, like watch him race, but it was so hard to like talk about it, and like everything like reminded me of it. I was like, oh my God, I can't just deal with it. And like even watching him like on the TV, I was like, oh my God, this is so hard. But I feel like eventually I was like, okay, I'm still young, like I have time, like it's not the end of the world. Like I'm starting a new chapter now, because it was right before I came to college. And I was like, I'm just gonna start everything from like zero, just new place, like new coaches, and I'll see what happens.
It's kind of crazy because at the qualification time for the Olympics, you were 17, and in the Olympics, you would have been 18. So to think that at that age, that much pressure on your sport that you've been working on for the past decade was on you is ridiculous in a way. And I'm curious, like coming into college and this new phase of your life, how did that result impact your relationship with the sport?
So I tried to like leave it behind as much as I could, to just like find this like love again for the sport, cuz the year leading up to the Olympics is so stressful. Like you go from one meet to another meet, and like you always think about it more than like the previous years, cuz you know it's like right there and you really want it, and then I didn't get it, so it was like all this stress, and then I was like, why would I keep doing it? Like it's not worth it. And then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go to this like gonna start in this new chapter, and like just gonna leave it behind me and not think about it, and just enjoy it like as much as I can, and just I don't know, suck it in, like all the like good the college has to offer. And I feel like especially my first year, like I thought I was ready for college, but when I came here I was like, oh my God, what's happening? I was so shocked. Like I don't think something or anything can like prepare you for college. So the academic part took over like everything. So the pool was more like escape for me. And I didn't really think. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna swim now. Like I don't care. Like I still have 4 years. Like it doesn't matter what I do. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna enjoy my time in the water. And it was actually really fun. Like I was like, oh, I love swimming again. Yeah. And at the end of my freshman year was the first year I got my World Scott. So it was my first time I went to World, so it was fun.
It's weird because in a way, when you're not thinking about the result, you tend to perform better. Is
Yes.
is that something that you experienced pretty much that
Yes.
year?
Yes.
Why do you
And
think that
not
is?
just that year, but even like now, like I know I tend to like overthink everything, but it's not really good for swimming. Like you just need to like I don't know, just trust yourself, trust the process, and that's it. Just go for it. Don't like overthink it, cuz it's not going to help.
I've been struggling with the overthinking part right now leading up to the race because something that's different in these individual sports is that it's so routine based. So, for example, I'm not sure what time. I know you guys compete in the morning and then in the evenings when it comes to like championships, right? Like you
Yes.
got to qualify,
And then
like
finals.
prelim and then the final. Yeah. So I'm sure there's different routines for each one, but right now, for me specifically, it's I know the race is going to be at 6:15 a.m. Something that I know happens is you wake up at least 3 hours before because you got to put food in your stomach. Naturally, like
At 3 a.m.
if you're gonna run 26.2 miles, you might as well get some food in your stomach, right? And you don't want
Yeah.
to eat 20 minutes before the
Yeah.
race. So yeah, it's like wake up at 3 or 2 a.m., something like that. And I did that this past Sunday because I didn't want the first time
Yeah.
to be the race day, right? So I tried it and something didn't work out well in my routine and I overthought it. I didn't run on Monday because it was my rest day.
Mhm.
Ran today, overthought it again, struggled. So like, do you have anything to avoid that overthinking or get past it? Is that like something you do in your routines whenever it comes to racing?
Well, I'm trying to. I'm not really good at it, but um, usually when you like practice it more, it's better until you like find the perfect like like spot. But for me, when I try to do it like right before the race, like close to the race, and it's not going as I planned, I'm like, okay, it's over. It's over, and that's something I'm struggling with. But I know it just in your head, like it's not. It doesn't matter. Like whatever you do, it's not gonna like relate to your race. It's gonna relate to your race, but like it's not as like I don't know important. I would say.
It's weird because there's this attention to detail that's so important in everything you do. Like the way you do anything is the way you do everything. But then when you really think about it, it's like which shoe I put on first doesn't matter when it comes
Yeah.
to racing. Like that is not important. And it's a weird distinction between paying attention to the details and then being superstitious.
Yes.
Are you superstitious at all?
Yeah, a little bit.
With
I try
what?
to like limit it.
With what type
I
of
have
thing?
like I don't know socks that I like to wear on like game day or like when I'm racing, and then well this year I like one time before a dual meet I had a Olipop.
Okay.
And then I did good, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And since then, I was like, "Okay, I have to get Olipop before every single like race." And I'm like starting to like, "Okay, I have to stop this because it's not really helpful. It's just in my head." And I feel like, as I said, like when you come closer to your meet, you're like super stressful, and the overthinking is like taking over. Like it's literally like taking over like your mind, and like you forget everything you've done. Like especially for me, I feel like even if I've been working hard and like good and like I was satisfied and like proud of myself during the season and like I don't know the last month, and then like 2 weeks before the meet, I'm like, oh my god, like I didn't do anything. Like I'm not gonna do good, and I know that it's just in my head. And I feel like the most important part, it's like you need to like recognize it and like be like, oh, like it's just my thoughts. It's not the reality, and I know I can like everything I've done. Like I'm ready for it. It's just like trying to like I don't know scare me, but it's not really there. It's just in my head.
Yeah, I think that the only way to erase any type of nervousness is through preparation. And the easiest way to do that is by quantifying it, which is what I love about these individual sports. And it's something I've been saying for years. Like, as soon as I'm done with soccer, I'm going to do an individual sport because something I admire about all of these Olympic sports is that you can quantify it. So, you know your time in swimming, you know how many laps you did or how many miles of swimming you did per week. Right now, for me, with the running, like yeah at times it's like well am I going to hit my goal or not like how is that going to work and I have this entire list of all the miles I've ran leading up to the race. So right now again 10 days out I'm 700 plus miles of training in the past 16 weeks. By the time I'm racing it'll be 800 miles. Like this will be nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like though I think the only way to delete any type of nervousness is literally through the preparation and by stacking up the layers, but in a way that you can see it as well. Like having that list, having that Excel sheet of, I did all of these days, all of these months, all of these training sessions. Like there's nothing left to do. When you know there's nothing left in the tank, I feel like that's when you know, like, all right, it's
Yeah.
just time to go out there and prove it. Or like not even prove anything, just like doing it, don't you think?
Yeah. Especially for you, like the marathon is like just to like finish it, you know?
But it's the same thing for you.
I mean, not really, because like I know I can finish my race. Like it's not, I can do it, but like I want to do it like fast, you know?
I think the difference is I definitely want to do mine fast as well. So that's
Yeah,
one
yeah, yeah,
thing.
of
Like I
course.
want to
But
focus on a time, but I'm not competing against anybody else. And you are.
yeah.
Like for you, it's there is a consequence. Whereas for me, there is no consequence, if that makes sense. Besides my own standard.
And I feel like, is it going to be your first time doing the marathon?
Yes, and I talk to Garrett pretty much every single day. And if Garrett listens to this, I'm so sorry because I'm probably annoying the fuck out of Garrett right now. I text him like, dude, what do I do here? What do I do this? He's probably so pissed off at me. But yeah, I've been telling him and he's like, dude, just focus on like finishing. And to me, it's I know I can finish.
Yeah.
I still want to hit a specific time.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, don't think
See,
about that.
I
And
feel like that's your like problem. Especially like the first time, like just enjoy it. Like you don't have any expectations. Like you could never know what you can do until you do it. So especially like the first time, you don't have any like prayer, like oh, like I could go this time or like faster or like slower. Just like go for it, you know.
what's different from that advice to like taking that advice for yourself, if that makes any sense?
I feel like, well, when I'm trying like new races, like races that I don't usually do or like I've done like in the past, like last weekend I had like some hundreds. I haven't done hundreds in like probably 5 years. So it was fun because I was like, I don't care what happens. Like I'm just gonna treat it as practice, you know, just like swim, like what I love to do and like what I'm good at, you know. And I feel like it was good because I didn't have this pressure of like, oh, like my best time is this, and like I need to be close to this, and if I'm not hitting this best time or like close to my best time, how am I gonna like go best time like in 2 weeks when I have to hit like the A cut for the Olympics? And I'm like, this is not helpful. Like it doesn't matter what I'm doing now, like it's not gonna ruin anything or like decide anything or like help me. Like even if I go fast now, it's irrelevant. Like I could go fast now and slow tomorrow or the opposite. It doesn't matter.
It's like avoiding that fear of failure when you're getting started, pretty much.
Yes, probably.
Do you feel like any other people that you've seen, whether it's in swimming or outside, like have you encountered people that are pretty much scared to try things just because of like, what if I fail? What if it's not good? When in reality, it's like, yeah, you're gonna suck the first time. No shit. Do you see that often or no?
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I think I'm like that. Not with swimming. Like I don't. I'm pretty like confident with all my strokes, so I can do like everything. So if someone tells me like, even like last season, I had to do like the 1,000, and I was like, oh, cool. Like I feel like I can be good at it. Like it's a good race for me. So I did it, and I did pretty good. So I was happy with it. But outside of swimming, it takes me a lot to like start new things. Like I don't know. I wanted to do like Pilates for probably 2 years, and it took me like 2 years to start to like just to start. And now I'm doing it like probably every week, and I'm enjoying it. Like I love it. It's so nice, and I'm like, why it took me so long to start? Like I don't have any stress, any like I'm not scared of failure because who cares? Like it just for fun, you know. It's not like a sport that I'm like trying to like improve it. I don't know,
yeah, like you eliminate
but
the opinions of other people because you're not doing it for them, if that makes any sense. Like
yes,
you're literally doing it for yourself.
yes. And I like if I can't like go heavy on the day, it doesn't matter because it has nothing to do with swimming, you know. So like I can do whatever I want, like, and still it took me like 2 years to start. So yeah, I feel like it's hard to start new things. Like this like unknown or like out of your comfort zone is really hard to like push yourself towards like that spot.
I think that's the reason imagination is such a powerful tool, whether it's for good or bad, because for good things, it could inspire and motivate you and allow you to dream. But for bad things, it like eliminates your ability to move forward. Like it keeps you in some sort of paralysis mode because since it's unknown, you can only imagine like the bad things or, oh, it's going to be so hard, oh, this, oh, that. But it's all in your imagination. And a
Yes.
pattern I've noticed in people that are like really successful in a specific area or just happy is that the gap between their idea of doing something and their execution of it is just so short. Like those types of people just as soon as they think something, they're like, all right, let me find the quickest way to try it. Because as soon as you try it, you find out, oh, I do like it or no, I don't. Like
Yeah.
let's say you would have waited those 2 years to try Pilates and then 2 years go on and it's all you can think about and you get to that
And I
first
hate
class
it.
and you hate it. Exactly. It's like, well, you just wasted 2 years of your life. You could have been thinking about something else. But
Yeah.
if you think today is Tuesday, right? And you think, oh, I want to go to a Pilates class, and then it's Saturday, and you go, oh, it turns out I didn't like it. All right, then next weekend you get to try something new.
Yeah. Yeah. It
If,
makes sense, but
but
I
it's
don't know.
hard. But it's hard
Yeah.
to execute. It's like
It's
easier
hard.
said than done.
Yeah.
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 I actually texted this to a friend and it was reference to something I posted a while ago, but it's this idea I have and I created this metaphor, not specifically, but it just makes sense. I like to play with metaphors, whether it's sports, like I was saying, or just life in general, relationships, whatever it could be. But I texted this to a friend and it says, life is too short not to try. Buy her flowers, ask her out, tell her how you really feel. She could be a metaphor for an opportunity, a fear, or an actual person. Whatever she may be, just know that if you haven't tried, you haven't lived. Because even if you fail, what better way is there to live? Knowing that it is much better to try and fail than to not try at all and regret that for the rest of your life.
Oh, that's good.
And to me, it's like I genuinely in this conversation think about that time back then of when I met you because you were a bit lost when it came to the sport of swimming. And I even when we did sit down and talk for a longer time a year ago this time, you didn't know why. And right now you feel like I feel like you're a bit more energized towards it.
Yes.
Is it did you find your purpose or is it knowing that it's much better to try and fail than to not try at all and regret that or what is it for you?
I feel like I'm starting to like I'm in the direction of like finding the purpose. I feel like I still have a lot of like work to do towards it, but one thing that I've been putting a lot of work is like myself like confidence and like self-talk and basically my mind because I think it's a very important part of like my success and the future life like because at the end of the day I'm the only person who's gonna be with me for uh, for the rest of my life and it was really hard to like I'm still struggling with it but it's really hard to like be kind to yourself if it makes sense but I don't know yeah so I've been working really hard to like find myself kind of thing and not through swimming because in the last probably 5 years I was like oh like I'm a swimmer so that's what defines me like oh I'm a swimmer I'm gonna have it for the rest of my life but and before I came to college I was like oh like I'm gonna swim until like I'm 28 like 30 like not big deal like I'll have it for a long time but once I started college and I started seeing like other people like other like goals and like future like ideas I was like oh my god maybe I don't want to swim until I'm 30 like maybe I'll just do like the 4 years of like the college swimming and then I'll be done like I don't know but what am I going to do after like I don't have a plan like I'm just lost without the swimming because it's been like my life in the last 8 years probably even more so I try to like find and do more things out of the swimming that make me happy and like make me proud of myself and like oh like I actually enjoyed this and like spend more time with friends and like getting out of this comfort zone and like meeting new people which is like really hard to me and I'm like okay like I have to do it like I need to like fight myself to do it but I know it's gonna help me in the future so yeah.
When Jam Shannon was here on the podcast, he said, diversifying what you're doing actually keeps you fresh because at times you can get so spun out by doing the same thing all the time. So he was focused on trying to do different things in order to become a better athlete, which is what ended up happening because his focus was so much on the same thing every single day that as soon as he stepped back from it, it like helped his life overall, and then becoming a better person ended up making him a better athlete. Is that like something you experience with this, or is it just all in your head?
Yeah, I try to do like other things, like to run away from the swimming and like try to limit the like swimming thinking just while I'm training. Like just the 2 hours a day or like 3 hours a day or like if I have doubles like 5 hours a day. But like out of the pool, just leave it behind. Like if I had bed practice, it's just bed practice. Like it doesn't matter, and don't think about it like your entire day. Cause why? It's not gonna help you, and like it's just gonna ruin your day. So like try to, I don't know, get like a coffee with a friend or like get a dinner with a friend or like get something that you like or I don't know, do something for yourself to like make you feel better and then just enjoy your day. Like yeah, don't put too much like stress over it. And even if you have like a good practice, like be happy with it, but like don't take it too far. Like don't be like, oh, like I'm done now. Like I don't have to train. I don't have to do this. Like don't go like loose. Like I don't know if it makes sense, but like don't like give it too much weight. Just think about swimming while you're swimming, and then like outside of the pool, think about other things. Like if you have like homework to do or like school or like just hanging out with friends or like family or do fun stuff like Pilates or like I don't know. Yeah.
That's the hard thing about dealing with results, right? Because if you don't give weight to the bad results, you also can't give weight to the good results. That's just how it works. Like you can't just focus on good things and then ignore the bad. It's either you ignore the both of them or you care about the both of them. And in a way, it's like the same thing with people's opinions, if anything. Like if somebody's telling you, oh, you did so great, you're incredible, you don't want that to get to your head. In the same way, you don't want the bad and negative comments to get to your head. So
Yeah.
it's just like eliminating all of that, not in a bad person way, right? But not to be like a dick towards other people, but just knowing that, like, all right, I could have had a terrible practice last day. I could have had a great practice last day. It's all irrelevant because I still have to do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter. Like it literally it doesn't matter. Like even if I had like a bad practice and then I have to race, like I didn't go the times I needed at practice, but then I have to race and I go faster. So I'm like, okay, like the practice, like what? It doesn't matter. And then the opposite, like I go really fast at practice and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, I'm gonna go my best time tomorrow, like when we have to race. And then I go like 7 seconds slower. And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? But it just like it's your body, it's your mind, like you can it's not like consistent. Like you can't really predict what's gonna happen and you just have to be like, oh, like I have a shot to do this right now, so I'm gonna do my best and see how good I can do. Basically, doesn't matter what happened in the past or what's gonna happen in the future.
Especially like if you consider anything in life, like, oh, I had a bad moment, that's a failure. Not really, especially with practice, because you're headed in the right direction. Like to an extent, it does matter that you just show up every single day, whether it's an incredible practice or a bad practice. It's like all that matters is that you keep moving forward in the right direction. Any progress is good progress. And I think I wouldn't agree in saying like, oh, it doesn't matter, but I understand like in the long run, it doesn't matter. With that being said, it does matter that you show up.
Yeah.
Like what
No,
matters
obviously
is that
it
you show
matters
up.
that like okay, if you have like bad practice over and over again for like 2 months, of course it's gonna affect you. But if it's like one or two, it's fine.
It's not only that it's fine, but it's not as bad as you thought it was because that is still progress. Like you
Yes.
are still getting better, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. Like that shitty run or that shitty swim that you went on, that is still doing more than zero. And
Yes.
that's all you want.
Because you still put the effort in and like okay, your heart rate was high, so like it's not like you haven't tried, it just like it didn't work out. So yeah, I feel like I heard this like sentence a lot of times, trust the process, and I hated it, but now I'm like yeah, like trust the process.
What about it?
Just fully commit to what you do, and like if you have a bad practice, it's okay. It's a process, and it's not always gonna be like perfect. So just let it go and like flow with the process basically, and see what happens. Like it's nice to see like how you get better, but it's not always gonna be the reality when you get better. So just put your head down and keep working, and you'll see the results.
Especially in the long run, because in the moment when you're tired body, not rested, not tapered, you really can't predict how your body's going to feel that
Yeah.
morning for that swim or after that lift or during that afternoon swim. I think that's something that I've had to learn with as well. Like some days you will just wake up and you will be a couple seconds slower, and it's like, all
You
right,
can't do anything about it.
you literally can't.
Yeah.
Once you rest and taper, yes, all
Yeah.
that work is going to show off, and you can kind of predict that moment. All right, like if I rested for 2 weeks or tapered for 2 weeks, like I'm 100% sure I'm gonna kick ass the day of the race.
Yeah.
But when you're in the thick of it, like in that process, week 13 of 16 of training or whatever it is, you cannot predict. If you don't feel good, all you can do is literally just show up, do it, and then move on to
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think the mindset, like you just said, like, oh, when I'm tapered, I'm 100% gonna do like good, like I'm gonna go fast. So that's really important. Like during this process, remember like what's like your reason, like what's your goal, and like remember that you're trusting the process, and you're like, oh, like during the taper, I know I'll be good. So it's fine if today is not my best day. Like we're humans, like we're not robots. So it's fine.
Yeah, some of the notes I had jotted down for these things specifically read: no event in and of itself can truly be judged as good or bad, lucky or unlucky, fortunate or unfortunate, but that only time will tell the whole story. So one practice is like,
Yeah.
it won't say anything. But in
True.
the long run, even if you don't get the results you want, even if you don't qualify for some reason, you still became a better person
Yeah.
because of it.
Yeah.
Or you learned something because of it, or you pushed yourself because of it.
Yeah.
And it's a crazy way to think. But when it does get in like those shitty moments or when it's hard, what do you think of? Is it your goals? Is it your purpose? Like what do you go back to get past that work when it doesn't feel great, when you're tired and it's too early and it's like, fuck, why are we swimming at this time and it's 39 degrees at 6 a.m. and I don't want to get in a
Yeah.
pool? Like, where do you go mentally?
I think for me, especially like the last like half year was like trust the process. I was like, I committed to the process and I'm doing it and I know it's gonna work. So I'm not, if even if I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to the pool earlier, like because I tried to come to the pool like 30 minutes earlier to like do warm up and activation. So I'm like, oh, maybe I can like just lay in bed for another like 5 minutes or like watch TikToks for like 5 minutes. I'm like, just 5 minutes, it's not gonna do anything. And then I'm like, no, like trust the process. Like you committed to it and you like you promised yourself that you're gonna do everything you can. So like why would you stop now? Just keep doing it. And then I just go and do it again. And then I'm like, I feel good with myself because I know if I would stay in bed for extra 10 minutes, I'd be like, oh, like why did I just give up? And it would ruin my entire day.
And yeah, it's like one of the things there is, it's one thing to set a standard and it's another thing to hold that same standard over and over and over again, right? Because you get to those
Yes.
moments of like 5 more minutes, let me hit the snooze button, like it'll be okay, but you can't allow yourself to go through those negotiations in the moment. It's like
Yes.
it's playing with temporary pleasure and long-term success in a way of like,
Yes.
oh, let me not fall for this temptation in these 5 minutes because 5 months from now I'll be glad I didn't do that. But for 5 minutes it feels nice.
Yes.
5 months from now it'll feel great that I didn't do that.
Yes. It's hard. Yeah, it's definitely hard. And especially when you're like trying to be perfect. So you have this like temptation in every field of your life. So it's hard to not let yourself to like break down for a little bit. So I feel like even if I'm not perfect in it, I'm still doing my best. And I have to, because I can't just be like, oh, like you got this dessert and you weren't supposed to eat dessert today. So now you like everything you've done is like wrong, like your process is like ruined. And I'm like, you can be so hard on yourself. So like you have to let yourself to like be like a little easy on yourself. And yeah, so it's definitely hard because you, especially me, like I have a lot of like things that I'm trying to like be perfect at, and it's really hard when you're like, okay, perfect this and this and this and this and this, and like you don't have a moment to breathe. Like you're like, oh my god, what am I doing wrong? And then when you let yourself like have this like second of like and then you're like, why did I do that? Like you regret it, and you have to learn how to like balance it. I feel like because you can just be so hard on yourself.
What do you mean when you say that you're hard on yourself? Is it like, oh, no rest from training, or no quick dessert or something like that? Like what is an example of when you're hard on yourself?
Well, both. I would say like sometimes I'm like, oh, I should keep swimming, like I should do extra, like maybe I should go for a run after like practice. But then I'm thinking like, but if I go for a run now, like is it gonna be good for me? Like am I gonna benefit from it, or is it gonna like slower my recovery, and then I'm gonna be like it's gonna be harder to perform the next day at practice. So I have to like decide what's gonna be the best move for me. And like with the dessert, like yeah, like sometimes I'm like, is it gonna help me? Because it's not really like healthy. Like it's not good for performance. But like sometimes mentally, like you need this like sweet treat. Because otherwise you're like just depressed, and then you're like, oh my god, like I can't keep doing it. So sometimes it's more important to like have this like sweet treat, but not. I'm not saying like go crazy now and like I don't know, but it's important to have like this sweet spots that you can like let yourself like yeah enjoy it.
It's finding a way to create tiny vacations in a way. That's how I like to think about it. Like, all right, 7 days a week. In one moment out of that week, there's a tiny vacation. So, and at times for me, usually what I love to do is just walk down the block, get gelato, and come back. Like, that is my Sunday thing. But this weekend, it was like, oh, I watched a movie instead. Like,
Yeah,
and it was like two completely different things. One is dessert and one is a movie. But like for me, that's when I realized it has nothing to do with the sugar. It's mostly I turn my mind off for a tiny section of the week. It's just like I'm not thinking about
really.
anything else, and I don't
For
know.
me
I
it's the sugar.
I mean, but it is nice. But don't you think in a way it's also like, oh, I relaxed. Like
Yeah,
it's that 1 second of
yeah, but sometimes even when I let myself to have this like dessert, and then while I'm eating it I'm like, why am I doing, like is it the right choice? So I'm not really like enjoying it. So I'm just running into my like I'm running both like parts of it, like the relaxation and the like good like aspect of it, like the performance aspect of it. So I'm like, it's not gonna do anything good. So I'm like, when I let myself like when I break and like I let myself have a dessert, I'm like, okay, now you just don't think about anything. You just enjoy this and like have fun with yourself. Like it's a good relaxation, as you said, and yeah,
yeah. It's wild to think that, especially for the entire culture. And I know specifically what it's like, not from personal experience, but just having these conversations over and over and over again. I know how intense it all is, but it's crazy to think like, oh, you're going into your senior year of college, and when you describe fun, you're talking about like a scoop of ice cream, and when other people
yeah,
have a completely different idea. How have you noticed like that difference in your life? Not maybe not in comparison to other people, but you've had to say no to more things than the typical college student. How much have you had to say no, or what types of things do you have to say no to in order to like even get close to achieving your goals?
yeah. I would say like probably 80%. Like no, and at the beginning it was really hard for me to like say no because I really enjoy like clubbing and like partying and like oh my god, like getting like tipsy and like oh my god, just enjoying the night. Like don't think about swimming or anything else. You can just relax and enjoy with your friends. But then I was like, it's still hard sometimes, but I'm more like Yeah, but I have something bigger. Like I have a goal that I'm working towards it, and it's not worth it to like. I'm working so hard on like my body, like everything, like perfection, like perfecting every aspect of it. Like it would be stupid to do something stupid one night and just like ruin and go back in your process like 2 weeks. And I feel like in the last semester it was easier for me. Like I didn't really have that like temptation to like go out and like party because I know that I have my goal and it's like closer and I'm like willing to do anything for it. And I just know that after I'm done with it, I'll have my entire life to like dedicate to like parties and whatever I want. But like right now, I have something else that I'm trying to focus on, and I know it's not. I'm not gonna benefit from like going out, so it's. I don't see the reason to do it, really.
Yeah, it's a trade-off. Like you're trading short-term pleasure versus long-term success in a way,
Yes.
and you'll have the rest of your life to do whatever you want after this.
Yes.
Yeah, in a way, like there's this quote that I love that says, "You don't have to love the hard work. You just have to crave the end result so intensely that the work becomes irrelevant." And I think about that often. Like sometimes I don't want to get up at that 3 a.m., right? But it's like,
Yeah.
but it'd be kind of cool to like run this marathon at this time.
Yeah.
And something I learned through that, which is what you were saying, is it's not necessarily, at least for me, like something that I came to terms with is it's not about having to say no to everything, but just finding one thing you want to say yes to so badly that everything else becomes no. Like it's the same thing when I say yes to recording this podcast, I'm saying no to anything else I could be doing with this time. It's
Yeah.
just a trade-off. Like we have limited resources and it's either time or money. Those are our two limited resources in life. And when you think of them that way and they exchange between one another, it's like, all right, what could I be doing with this time? And by saying yes to this, I'm saying no to everything else. Like in a way, you could be scrolling TikTok or like watching Netflix right now,
Yeah.
but you're here.
Yeah.
And that's like it's those trade-offs and that's just an example, but you could use that for anything else in life. Like I think when you really 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 care about something so bad and you want to say yes to it so badly, it's easier to say no to everything else because you are saying no to everything else by saying
Yeah.
yes to that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. But also sometimes like your friends want to go get dinner, I don't know. So you could like ask them to do it maybe a little bit earlier so you can go to sleep like earlier. Or if your friends are meeting like, I don't know, Friday night because they want to go out, you can just meet with them for like an hour. You don't have to skip the entire thing, but you can just have limits and like tell them like, see, like I really want to spend time with you and I'm gonna come to like just to like say hi and like show my face, but I'm not gonna stay the entire time because I have this goal and I would appreciate if you understand. Like, yeah, as my friends, like I would appreciate your like support and like, yeah, but I'm gonna leave earlier and go to sleep because that's what gonna make me better and I believe that's what gonna help me to achieve my goal.
Have you lost friends in this process?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Have they all been supportive of it, like understanding?
They're yes, the close friends, yes, and yeah, I feel like the people that I don't know, the people that are not in my life anymore, I wouldn't want them to be in my life because they don't really support me. So why would they still be in my life if they don't want me to succeed?
Yeah, I've thought about that often too, and I think it's not even they're bad people or I'm good people
No,
or
we just have
anyway.
like different like goals, I guess. Yeah.
I think about that often. I think in the process of losing friends, it's just that the context changed. I don't think it's whether they're good people or bad people. It's just our context changed. So, for example, I have some friends that I thought were hilarious in high school. I thought they were the funniest people alive. And I look back at it now, and today they're making the same jokes. And I don't think that's funny anymore. Like, it
Yeah.
was funny when we went to high school together. It's no longer funny now. Or even a couple years ago, like, I was on the team here at Cal, right? And shared so many things with specific guys and we hung out all the time. But as soon as soccer ended, what else do we have in common?
Yeah.
And the context changed. It doesn't make them good people or bad people. It doesn't make me a good or bad friend. It's just that the context changed.
Yeah. I feel like I'm struggling with it because I overtrust people and I like expect a lot of things from them. But then sometimes I like realize that they're just there for this like chapter and they're not gonna be there for my entire life. So I don't have to like give them that much like weight and like expect from them that much. And I just need to like enjoy them while they're still here. And like, let's say like teammates, like some of my teammates freshman year, like I really enjoyed like being their like teammate, but that's what it was, like teammate. Like they're not gonna stay in my life forever. And like, yeah, if I'm gonna meet them in the future, we could like become friends again, or like I don't know, like have a good time. But it doesn't mean that we're gonna be like the best friends ever, and we're gonna like keep in touch every single day and like talk and like yeah. I find it hard to like people that I get really attached to, especially here in college, and then they like leave, and I'm like, were we even friends? Or like what happened? But then I'm like, it's just how life goes, and like not everyone is supposed to stay in your life forever, and just enjoy it while it's there.
Yeah, it's something I try to think of as well as like not taking it for granted in a
Yeah.
way. Do you think about that often or no?
Yeah. Sometimes.
I get in the mindset and it's like super deep and I know it's like kind of dark to even talk about for some people, but to me it's like understanding like all right, it's limited time. Again, like the resources thing, like all right, you have 24 hours in a day and you have X amount of years in your life, like quite frankly, and you don't know how long everything's gonna last. Like for me, all right, I get 2 extra years in Berkeley. But again, after 6 years, it's like I'm gonna leave. Like I get to me something I think about is all right, I'm hanging out with Leia, with Garrett, with Mel, like we hang out sometimes. I get 1 more year of that. And after that,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how often that'll happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, I'm gonna make the best of it, knowing that there is an end. And in a way, the end is beautiful because it gives everything else meaning. But it's like, it sucks to think like, don't take it for granted because
Yeah.
it's not always gonna be there, type
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah. I get it. Especially with like seniors and like fifth years. I'm like, oh my god. Like even like Rachel Klinker, we've become like really close friends, and I'm like, how am I gonna do like this without her? But luckily she's staying here next year. I
Really,
think yeah, she's staying to like train here. So there's something like every time I like spend time with her, I'm like, oh my god, there like might be my last time spending time with her as like like as a college teammate, like a friend. Like I don't know what's gonna happen in the future because who knows what's gonna be like after college, you know? And that's something I'm like, oh my god, it's kind of sad, but yeah, I'm just trying to make the best out of it.
yeah, I think it's important. Well, while it can be dark and it can be a sad thought, I think it's important to have those thoughts because if not, you just go about life taking everything for granted, and then you get to the end and it's like, oh no, I wish I would have done all these things. But it's like if you keep the end in the back of your mind every single day, it's like you'll treat things differently. There's this quote that I really love from Marcus Aurelius in Meditations that says, like it's something like what is it? It's like his thought about death pretty much, and he just says like you could, or I think what it is. This is what it is. It's like you could leave the earth right now, allow that to determine what you do say and think. And to me, it's like all right, maybe not death, but this could be the last time I sit down and have a full long conversation with Leia, just one on one. Like
Yeah.
allow that to determine what you do say and think, or like anything else in life. It's like could be my last swim with this person, allow that to
Yeah.
determine how I act. And I think it's a deep thought, but at the same time it makes everything in life much more meaningful.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Moving forward, what is it specifically about the Olympics that's so important to you? Like obviously I know it's the biggest event in the world for athletics, right? But let's say aliens invaded the world and they don't give a fuck about the five rings. They don't know what it is. If you had to explain it to them why you care so much, what would you say?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think it's just something that, well, recently I started like talking to someone like mentally, like mental performance, like I don't know. But he told me this like thought. He was like, it's nothing, it's just a meat. Like, and just because of this society's like perception of it, that's why it's big. But if you think about it, it's just a meet. It's the same meet you had when you were 11, and it's gonna be the same meet like after. Like it's nothing more than that. But it is still like the biggest thing. Like I feel like if you ask all the athletes, well, maybe not all the athletes, but all the like Olympic athletes, they're like, yeah, like the Olympics. That's like the big goal, cause I think that's like the top. Like you can't really go over, and you aiming to be there, like just for you to know that you can do it. I feel like it's with marathon, like it just for you to know you can finish it more than like, oh, go fast. Maybe later, but it's gonna be like, oh, I really want to go fast. But right now, oh, like Ironman, it's like, oh, I just want to finish it. So for us, it's just like, oh, like just for me to know I can be there, like I can be the greatest in the world, you know?
It's to prove it to yourself.
Yeah, that all this like hard work was like for something, like you worth it, like yeah.
It's weird because I by no means would want to compare it at all, because I think for the difference with Olympians is you work at it way more years than signing up for a random marathon, right? Like it's not the same thing because you one have to qualify, and two, it's every 4 years. It's not like you could do twice.
Yeah.
I'll run 2 marathons a year, and it's like, dude, you could only do the Olympics every 4 years. But it's tricky because in a way, not the best athletes in the world compete, which is also a very
Yeah.
interesting thought.
True.
Like the way that system works is crazy. Like to think that, let's go keep it in swimming, right? Like some American swimmers could place third or
Yes.
fourth in events, but they won't be at the Olympics.
Yes, I think like two back, women's two back, top eight could be like all Americans, but only two get to go, which is crazy to me. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of people that are not athletes, they have no idea.
No idea.
They have no idea. They're like, oh, like you went to the Olympics. Oh my god, like you're the best in the world, and you might be like 100. Like you're not even like the top. Like, but yeah, something about it is like, I don't know.
Top
special.
100 is still insane though.
Yeah.
Like that is still best of the world.
Yeah, but if you tell people, oh, I'm top 100, they're like, oh, fine. But if you tell them like, oh, I went to the Olympics, they're like, oh my god.
I totally get that, but at the same time, the people that would say, "Oh, whatever, you're top 100," they probably have no idea what it takes to be top 100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they have no idea. I do think that the fact that it is a tournament in a way, like thinking about the Olympics as a tournament rather than a league, right? Like in
Yeah.
soccer, there's tournaments and then there's leagues, and the leagues you just stack up performance weekend by weekend by weekend. And in tournaments, it's the same thing here. Qualify and keep on qualifying until you get to the final, and then we'll see where they end up. That's not as fair because you could have great days for 364 days a year, but if you have one bad day,
Yeah.
that specific day, you're sick or whatever, you're fucked.
Yep. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, why do I even do this sport? Like it's so not fair, and like you can't control anything except like you can like train hard and like, I don't know, keep like your diet or whatever, but you can't control anything. Like you have no idea what's gonna happen. But that's something about it. It's like mysterious. Like, oh, like I want to find out, you know, and see what I can achieve or like what I can do. But I do think it's really important to like not let it like define yourself, because if you let it like be your like, oh, like I'm a failure, like no, you're not. You just had a bad race. Like it doesn't mean anything. Like some people don't even know what the Olympics like. They don't give a fuck. Like yeah. So I'm just trying to like, when I have like these thoughts, I'm trying to like think about like all the people that literally have no idea. And like some people, when I tell them like that I train 10 times a week, they're like, oh my god, when do you have time? Like, is it like twice a day? I'm like, yeah, sometimes even like 3 times a day. And like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, it's been my life forever. Like it's weird to me that some people don't know it exists. And even like my best friend from home, she was like, she knows I'm like traveling a lot and like we've been friends since we were like probably 5 or like 4, and she can see like I'm not like I have meet like every weekend, and like I have morning practice and then the afternoon practice, and we can hang out because I have practice and a meet. But one time she came to the meet and she was like, when you were on the blocks and they screamed your name, I almost pissed myself. I don't know how you were about to like dive and like swim your like race. I was like, this is like nothing. Like this is like the bonus. Like I'm not even like paying attention to it. So even like the close people to you, they don't really realize, and like you don't realize how much you're putting in it because you're in it. So you're like not really like recognizing like the people around you and like what they see from their perspectives.
One of the things that's crazy to me is when people say like, "Yeah, I work out 3 times a week." I'm like, what do you mean? Like how? Or like I only hit 2 workouts this week. Couldn't get my third one in. I'm like, what do you mean? I had no time. It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And to be
It's
fair, there
crazy.
are people that have very, very, very different responsibilities in life. So like, I totally get that. But it's like,
Yeah.
you
No,
you do have time.
the worst thing is like when you have like a group project with someone from school that is not like an athlete, and they're like, I don't have time. Like I woke up at 2 p.m. today, and I have this class and homework, and I have the project from last week that I didn't finish, and I'm like, I had like 3 practices today, and I finished the project from last week. How is it possible? Yeah, but yeah.
It's weird because busy people tend to do work better because they know what it's like to be busy. But if you
Yes,
give
and the
something,
time management is way better. Like they know how to like. I have days that I'm like back to back to back to back, and I need to like prepare lunch and like this and like my outfit and then like my swimsuit, and then like everything is like ready, and they're like, I don't know when I'm gonna wake up tomorrow. Like I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Like I don't know how do you live like that.
and that's the thing. Like at least for me as well, when I'm in my routine of go 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 go, I get so much more done than when I
Yes.
have free time.
Yes.
When I have free time, it's easier to waste it. But when I don't have any space at all, I'll just like
Yeah.
naturally just gain momentum instead of having to stop and go.
Yes.
It's weird how it works, but yeah, I think time management is one of those things that's a humongous difference as well as like just mentally, right? Like I think that is a good point of transferable skills that the sport gives you.
Yeah.
Just like some people, like it's easier to make an excuse of like again, like I don't have to today, or like this person said this about me. Like it's something I in journalism school. It's like I hear some of these things, and it's like this professor said this about me, and I'm like, dude, if that were your coach, like that's nothing, or like little things of this person thought this, or they had this opinion, and it's like
Yeah.
doesn't matter, or like I didn't have time, and it's like I don't know what to
Yeah.
say.
The funniest thing is when one of your friends like work out once a week and they're like, I'm so sore, and I'm like, you
But
should try what soreness is.
But that's the crazy part of the more you do it, the easier it gets. And that's like a whole paradoxical thing of like it's way harder to start than to gain momentum and keep on
Yes.
going.
Yeah.
Like it's way harder to go from 0 to 1 than from 1 to 10, if that makes any sense. Like 0 times 1 is still 0. Like it takes an effort. Whereas to go from 1 to 10, like all right, as soon as you start gaining momentum, it'll continuously multiply. And it's like in
Yeah.
a way, in a weird way, it's easier to keep on
Yeah.
going than to get started.
Yeah.
It's so weird how it works. But like you will be more sore if you work out once a week than if you work out 6, 7, 10 times a week.
Yeah. But you still feel all this like soreness. Like like you're familiar with the feeling, like and way worse.
Yes, but it is easier for
Yeah,
anyone
yeah.
to keep up with that soreness day in and day out than to just like go from 0 to 1 at the very
Every
start.
week. Yeah. Yeah.
Which sucks, but it's like with all of that, like with friends not understanding things at your meets and loved ones and close people, like do you ever feel lonely in that process?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Especially when I have time to like think or like breathe. I'm like, oh my god. Like I don't have anyone like I'm here by myself. Even the coaches, like I used to be like so dependent on the coaches, and now I'm starting to like realize like no, like you have to be there for yourself. Like you have to make these decisions for yourself and like know what's better for you, and not be that like dependent on them because they don't really feel what you feel and they don't really know your body. Like they can see, like they see you like throughout the season, like they can have an idea, but at the end of the day like they have no idea what's happening. So it's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard to be in this like position when like, and sometimes you feel like no one understands you because you like, even like your closest friends, like you're trying to tell them and they're like, we've no, like they're trying to help you, but like in reality they have no idea like what you feel because they don't really do the same thing. So yeah,
How do you deal with that in the moment?
I don't know, different ways. I'm trying to do things that I love probably, and like maybe not talking to my friends about it because they can't really help me with it, but just like I'm trying to like enjoy time with them and like maybe see more friends or like be close to my family or like I don't know, talk to like I don't know, people that can help me. Even the coaches sometimes, like, but yeah.
It is weird. It is a weird thought of just like going through it again, like day in, day out. And at least for me now, like I literally live by myself. So if I make no effort to like do something, get out of my way to like do something, I
Yeah.
will very literally be alone. Like, and it's weird because it's one thing to physically be alone, and then it's another one to be around people yet still feel lonely,
Yeah.
which is a very weird thought. Like, yes, I do spend a great majority of my time physically alone, but I'm on phone calls with like my best friends from Berkeley often. So I don't feel lonely because my friends that work in, I mean, some of them are working in entertainment industry. Some of them are working in the finance industry. Some of them are working in law, like all of these different places, but we can still relate on many things. That's my favorite part. Like it's not
Yeah.
necessarily what we're doing that matters, it's how we feel about it. It's all a vehicle of personal development. Like for some friends that are entrepreneurs, others that are athletes, others that are artists, others that are just like working a 9 to 5 or whatever it may be. It's all about like it's just finding your own vehicle for personal development, and I think that's the beauty of it, like finding other people that maybe aren't in the pool like you are but that are pushing themselves in the same way.
Yeah. And I feel like you have like different friends for different purposes. Like some friends you just I don't know, getting dinner with them. Some friends you really like talking to them and like spitting out all your like feelings, and some friends, I don't know, they're just there when you need someone just spend time with, you know? And yeah, I feel like it's tricky to find this like purpose of your friends, but like it's important to know what each person is good for, and when you struggle with something you know exactly where you need to go and what you need, so you know like what people you should see and like talk to and whatever. Yeah,
Considering you're in a very very similar situation, what's your relationship with your brother?
pretty good. But we don't really talk on a daily basis, but I feel like when we see each other, because we have like the same struggles, the same like problems, like I can tell him and I know he will understand me, and I do trust him and appreciate him, so I will take his advice as like a strong advice and really like consider it, you know? And yeah, I feel like this relationship is like one of the relationships you don't really have to like talk every day, and when you see each other again you like you know it's like the same, like nothing changed, you know? So that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely in a funny space with my siblings right now because our the majority of our conversations are just through sending each other memes, right? Like that's all. That's the only way we talk.
You have a
But
group chat or is it
I
like
have a group
private?
chat with the two of them, and then individually, and then with my brother who's closer to my age. we have a group chat with one of his friends, and then we just send memes in there all the time. But at least for me, like I played Division 1 soccer here at Cal. My brother is currently playing Division 1 soccer at Creighton, and I can see how we were raised in a very obviously like the exact same way, same parents, same household. So I know what was done for us that led us to this exact same situation. I'm curious what you think, like what was it in your specific household that led you to be swimming at Cal and your brother swimming at Stanford and both at the national team? Like, what do you think was done differently in your household that allowed for you guys to be in this position today?
I don't know, but we were always like together since I was little. I was like following him everywhere. Literally, like he was playing with his friends, and I would come and like interrupt them. But yeah, we've done everything together. Like he even joined me in the ballroom dancing. But yeah, and I think it was really not really easy, but it was easier to push each other because we were always together, like in the same boat, and we knew exactly what the other person like is going through, and like we even trained together. Like we had the same coach, like did the same practices, like even our events were pretty much the same. So like we had the same like coaching, like whatever. But every time I struggled with something, I would share it and he would help me with it because he was like probably there at practice. Like if it was like about my coach or like something, he probably like knew about it because he was there. And actually the first time we were like separated is when we came to college, and it was really weird because now I think about it sometimes, but it's like we have like a different coach, and it's so weird because like we don't experience the same things anymore, and like we come to the meet and we still feel the same things. Like I'm like, I can tell him like, oh, like I don't feel good in the water. Like I'm so stressed. Like how am I gonna swim fast? And it's like, don't worry. Like my preparation was bad too. Like my coach like did this. Like I didn't like this, or like I love this. And like don't worry. Like we're in the same boat. Like I don't feel good either, but we're gonna swim fast. Like and I it helps. Like I don't know why, but it really helps. Like there is someone that understands me and someone that was there every single step of my like career and like knows me probably the best, I would say, because yeah.
Did your parents ever push you guys to achieve something greater, or is there anything they did specifically that you think made you two end up where you are today?
No, I don't think so. They're really like supportive along the way, but yeah, I know there are some parents that are like really involved, and I would literally hate it because it's so annoying. Like when they come to every practice and like interrupt your coach and like, oh, you should do this, and your technique is not good. I'm like, no, like, and didn't really have like any knowledge in swimming. And as we got better, they like got more knowledge. So right now they have like they know a lot about it, but when we were young, they had no idea because like we were the first like swimmers in the family, and it was kind of nice because they weren't super involved. They were like just supportive and like just drove us to practice and like meets and like would cheer us up during meets, and that's it. But yeah.
What about academically? Because it's one thing to be great swimmers, and it's another one for you to both end up at great schools. So, like, was there anything at all from them, or is it
Yes.
literally, yeah? So there is something from your parents, like maybe
Yes.
not specifically swimming, maybe it is school, but overall, like, I'm sure there has to be some sort of discipline coming from your parents, don't you think? Like, to push yourself to be where you are, because it's not like, oh, we just did it with Leia. No, they did it with your like two oldest kids. So
Yeah.
what was it?
I think since we were young, it was always like important for them our like academic part. It wasn't as much the swimming as the academic part, and even when we went to college, my mom was like, yeah, like I really want you to go to like a really good like academic school. It would be nice to have like both, but I want you to focus more on the academic. And at some point when we were young, we were like, oh, like, well, at least for me, it was like something that was like in my behavior. Like it was important to me too, not just for my mom to get into like a good academic school. Like yeah, it was one of my criteria to go into college. Was yeah, academic was a big part of it.
Yeah, in a way, I feel like the discipline in that one area just like translates to everything else because you like to swim and your brother also likes to swim, so you're both gonna swim. And then in your the rest of your free time, your parents are like pushing you to do that. So
Yeah,
it's kind of inevitable when that's your environment versus having like a sibling that's like, oh, you don't need like, you don't need to be swimming all day. Your parents, it's like, if you missed your homework today because you're tired from practice, it's okay. But
yeah.
it sounds like you didn't really have that.
No, not really. I mean, sometimes when I was like, I really don't want to go to practice. They're like, well, at some point, not at the beginning, but at some point, they like knew how important it is to me, both like school and swimming, and they knew that if I'm like telling them that I don't want to go, there is like a legit reason, and they would let me to like just skip it, and like yeah, but I think, I think before we came to college, it was more like they tried to convince us to stay at home if we felt bad before practice. Because they're like, you don't have to push yourself that much. Like, you don't feel good, just stay at home. Like, it's not, one practice is not going to make the difference. But we're like, no, we have to go to every single practice no matter what.
When it comes to training right now here at Cal, like talking about swimming and academics, I know there's a specific thing for Olympic year or Olympic semester. What's that like? Like, do you just not go to school or how does that work?
No, so I got like the Olympic waiver, which is the reduced course load. So I was able to like basically spread out one semester into like 2 semesters. So I had to take like 13 units, I think, or 12 in the last year, in the last 2 semesters. So basically, what I did, it was like first semester I took like like 3 classes, I think, and last semester I took 1 class.
Wow. And
Yeah.
that's the purpose behind that is just so you can fully focus on swimming pretty much.
Yes, like swimming, yeah, like recovery, and like if I need to stay extra in the pool and like do more like work on my turns or like do like some pace so I have time and I don't have to be like stressed about like oh like I'm late to class. So like if I need to like meet with coaches or like recovery like rehab like injury rehab or something, like I have time to do it and not be stressed about like classes and homework and like exams and everything.
I think the beauty of this Olympic waiver is that it allows you to eliminate anything that could serve as a distraction for the Olympics. Like there
Yes.
is the most limited amount of school. They are counting on you to eliminate anything outside of school and the pool. So literally your only option is recover, work out, or sleep.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like.
Yes. I still had to go to class like 3 times a week, twice a week, but it was kind of nice because otherwise it would have been like really boring. Like I had a lot of free time. Like I napped every day. I went to bed at like 8 p.m. Like I can't sleep that much. It's not good.
When setting those goals in a way like you have these goals and you eliminate all distractions, but how do you set your goals or are they pretty much so obvious that they're set for you?
I think I don't know.
Well, specifically with this one in swimming.
So I have my big goal, like the Olympics, and then all the small goals. I think throughout the years, I was like, what can I do better to be better? And then let's say like some coaches told me like I need to stay after practice and like practice my turns because they're not the best. So now when I have time, I would do that because now I have like yeah, I have the opportunity. So I think throughout the years I like collected all like the little things and I tried to do as many of them as I could. Yeah.
I think one of the things that's a good transferable skill for athletes like into any other area of your life is that, do you remember when we did it in class, like your freshman year, the SMART goals thing? Do you remember that?
Not really.
It was like, so the best way to set up goals is like this thing called SMART goals, which is an acronym. It's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time based. And I think the easiest thing for athletes for setting goals is that it's so obvious. Like for you, like specific, qualify for the Olympics. Measurable, yeah, you either make the A cut or you don't. Like it's time based, so you can measure it. Is it attainable? Yes, like you're already there. Is it relevant? Yes, you're a swimmer. And is it time bound? Like, yeah, it's this summer. And I think it's just so obvious how you can set goals as an athlete. Whereas, again, going back to anybody else that hasn't had this experience, and it doesn't have to be athletics. You could be an artist, or you could be a musician, or you could be like having any vehicle for personal development will give you these things. But for people that are just not involved at all, like it's so hard to set goals because of that. But for you,
Yeah.
in a way, you don't have to think about it because it's just a given.
Yeah. And for people that don't have these goals, they don't. Well, yeah, it's hard to find a goal to like that keeps you like motivated and like keeps you going like every day. So yeah.
It's all like personal discovery is what I've learned. Like it's not necessarily about doing a specific thing. It's just about finding something.
Yeah.
Like it could even be like just painting. Like you could find some sort of personal discovery through painting, but whatever it is, whatever. Like some people really like DJing. Some people really like creating some sort of music. Some people like to, I don't know, make some sort of video. Like whatever it is, I think there is that personal discovery. But if you have none of that, it's like, oh, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Because even video games could give you that to an extent. Like there's so much, but it's just about like finding it. The difference is I think athletics gives you very obvious goals, whereas other ones don't.
Yeah.
Because, all right, let's say you want to make it to the next level in a video game. It's not like there's no time bound. You don't have to make it by this summer. You don't have to make it by June qualifiers. You don't have to do it then. And in sports, it's like, yeah, there is a deadline. Like it is a deadline for everyone, and there's no way around it.
Yeah. But I feel like some athletes, even like in college, they don't really swim. Not swim, but like do their sport for like the deadline. I don't know how to explain it, but some people are not, they know they're like not good enough to make like, I don't know, NCs, but they're not like really frustrated about it. I don't know.
Well, because everybody has their own goals.
Yeah, I know, but for them it's like, oh, they're just doing it to get better for themselves. So I would say it's like video games. Because you don't really have a deadline. Like,
well, but they still have Pac-12s, and they still have meets on weekends, and that's different.
Yeah.
That's different because there is a deadline, there is a competition. It's just not at the same level.
Yeah.
It's all relevant, really. Like someone that is, again, to go back to the initial example, right? Like signing up for a marathon. Forget about me. Anybody could sign up for a marathon. You could be running a 6-hour marathon, and like that's still having a deadline and some sort of goal.
Yeah.
Like to go back specific, all right, run a marathon. Measurable, well, you either run it or you don't. It's 26.2 miles. Attainable, that depends on the person. Relevant, that depends on the person. Time bound, yeah, because as soon as you sign up, it's like that's the day of the event.
What if you don't sign up?
That's the issue. So what I'm saying is like you can still create these goals by being an athlete at any sort of level, like being an amateur in marathon. But if you don't sign up, that's the issue. In comparison to those athletes in college that aren't making NCs or aren't making the Olympics, they still have a deadline of, there is the meet this weekend. There is Pac-12s. Like that is a deadline. That is an event.
Yeah. Yeah,
and they do participate, just not at the same level.
Yeah,
so that's the comparison I'm making for the marathon. Like it's just amateurs, and even if you're like fit and running good times and whatever, like you're still an amateur. Like there's not much coming out of it besides doing it for yourself and personal discovery.
Yeah.
But that only comes in athletics because you come in this exact date and you do it this exact day.
Yeah.
Whereas for video games, you don't need to pass the next level any specific day.
True.
I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
When it comes to those events in Olympic year, Pac-12s, NCs, whatever it may be, how much do you prioritize it? Especially because it's short course, you want to compete long course, like all of these different things. Like, how do you balance it? Do you taper for it? Do you rest for it? Do you care about it? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, I care about it because it's like the biggest thing of like the college, and like I want to succeed in it and like be the best I can be. But it was interesting this year to like balance it. But at the end of the day, swimming is swimming. Like we swim every day. It's not like different. It's just like the context is different. Like you have more like walls and like underwaters, and like you need to learn how to like the race strategy, and it's a bit different. But I feel like a year is still a long time. Like you have a lot of time to like play around with it, and we here in Berkeley, like we train like both long course and short course throughout the year, like even like before Pac-12s and like before NCs, and I feel like that was something like really helpful and like important to just have it there, like the long course, even when we had like the short course season. But I did like do full like taper for the meet because at the end of the day you still have to like remember how to like race. It doesn't matter what like length of the pool you race, but you need to practice this mentality like during the like a big meet, and it's important. And I think I was focused on both kind of thing, but like a month out of NCs, I was like, okay, now I'm gonna put like the Olympics aside for a little bit, and I'm just gonna focus at like NCs and Pac-12s, and just like finish it at like off with like good like results, and like do my best, and then I'm gonna go back to the Olympics preparation and see what I can do.
what does the tapering process look like for you?
For me, it's like probably 10 days out. We just do less, and like we do more like sharp things during practice, like faster swims, more rest, or like in the weight room we will do like heavier things but like less reps, like 1 or 2 reps instead of like 6 total, and things like that, just to be like more sharp and like explosive and like feel good. That's like the main like thing.
Oh, so it kind of balances out in a way. Like before, it was more work, more reps, less volume, and now it's heavier volume, but less reps. Is that what it is? Tapering, pretty much.
No, the volume is higher during the season, and then you go down towards the like
Yeah.
the mean.
Okay. So I think volume. I meant weight, but
Oh,
So like weight you go up, reps you go down, and then
yes.
in the pool it's reps you just go down, intensity you go up.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
But it's still like during the season you still have like high quality like practices, but you wouldn't go as fast as you would go during taper because you like, not rested. Like you still have the fatigue and like like you're tired and like yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And what about I saw that I mean I know that you were training with the men's team at times and even like traveled with them to Colorado. What's that experience like for you? Like just training around the guys and learning from them and seeing the differences, like what's that experience like for an athlete like you?
That was nice, but I don't know. It wasn't that special for me cuz before college like I trained with like combined teams, so it wasn't like new. It was actually like what I was used to, so yeah.
Like so there isn't yeah, it doesn't really matter in swimming, does it?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, you can race the guy, like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean the racing doesn't matter, but yeah, I was thinking like in training, is there anything that you notice that they do differently or that you could learn from them or like I don't know, overall, for example, like in soccer, when you are kind of young, like you're starting to become a teenager, and then when the girls like national team for the US is like U17, U20, U23. You like that's the perfect age gap to like play against each other. And we would scrimmage. Like I've scrimmaged like when I was way younger. I scrimmaged the national team, and it was like the perfect age to compete. And we were to learn from each other in a way because for us it was like all right, like at first we wouldn't go into tackles as much, and immediately they would just hit us like 5 minutes in, and it was like all right, like game on type of thing. But I think like the technique was different, or they were more precise about certain things, and you get to learn from that. Or I remember when Skylar Magula was here, he said the same thing. Like initially he started training with the girls and got to learn from their technique and all these different things. Do you have any takeaways like that from the guys, or is it really irrelevant in swimming?
I mean, I feel like it's irrelevant in swimming because, yeah. But I do learn from like the guys, like let's say Ryan or like Destin or like it is a bit different because they're like national champions and like they have a lot of like good like swimmers like in the top like stages, and it's nice to like see how what they do, or like I don't know, like even like being in the same lane with Hugo, like it's like oh my god, like he's a world champion and I'm like swimming with him, like doing the same practice. Like if he can do good with these practices, like I probably can also do good, you know? And I don't think like it's something in like oh they're men and we're women, but I think it depends like on the person. Because even like swimming next to Abby or like Farida, it's really nice to like see their like level of like profession, like yeah, how professional they are, and see what they do different or learn from them, or like I don't know, look at their stroke or everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when Hugo was here, something that I told him is like study the greats to one day become one. But then there's a step further to that, which is surround yourself with the greats, and then one day you'll be a part of them. And this was, we recorded this like 2 years ago, and he was like literally that. Like when I came to this pool, all the guys were so much better than me, and learning from them
Really?
is like incredible. And what's crazy to think of now is like now he's a world champion,
Yeah.
which is wild to think of.
Yeah.
Yeah, very special. Um, Going back and to start closing off the conversation, and then in a whole full circle moment, I think I really just won't forget that those first conversations we had, especially like obviously right now because it's Olympic year, right? So it was Olympic year back then, it's Olympic year now. And I think something that was so special is maybe back then it felt a certain way in the moment, but now you could look at it differently. And there's this quote for this book I read on a daily basis because it's like one page a day. And this one is from March 13th. It's from this book called The Daily Stoic. And it reads, part of the reason we fight against the things that happen isn't that we're so focused on our plan that we forget that there might be a bigger plan we don't know about. Is it not the case that plenty of times something we thought was a disaster turned out to be, with the passage of time, a lucky break? We also forget that we're not the only people who matter, and that our loss might be someone else's gain. This sense of being wronged is a simple awareness problem. We need to remember that all things are guided by reason, but that is a vast and universal reason that we cannot always see. The surprise hurricane was the result of a butterfly flapping its wings a hemisphere away, or that misfortune we have experienced is simply the prelude to a pleasant and enviable future. With that being said, in hindsight, what do you think was the bigger plan you didn't know about 3 years ago this time?
I don't know. I think it's still like coming, still in the making. But yeah, I think I've always, like I said before, I thought that swimming is my life. But right now, I feel like I have bigger things ahead of me. And like, yeah, of course, like being an Olympian is like one of my biggest goals, and it is still my like goal, and I really want to be one. And but I know there is more for me out there, and I'm like not scared to like think about it. As like before I was like, oh my god, like I'm just gonna swim and it's gonna be fine, like whatever happens happens. But yeah, I think one of the biggest like steps that I that changed it was my freshman year, actually, when I was able to like kind of take a step back and like do other things and like still swim and get better in swimming without putting that much pressure on it. And yeah, that's it.
What do you know now that you wish freshman year Leia would have
So,
known?
I don't know. It's a good question. Like a lot of things, I don't know. I don't know. Well, me, I was really like scared, shocked, whatever. I don't know. Really like closed. Like I felt like I couldn't really do things by myself. Like even the first day here at Berkeley, I didn't know anything because I never came to visit before, and it was my first day. It was like I had to get this like COVID test, and that's the only thing I knew. I was like, okay, I have this COVID test this time, and like there, like the place, and I was like, that's I have no idea what's happening after, and like I was scared to do things by myself, like I don't know, take a flight or like even like being with myself, just enjoying like my company, and I feel like I've learned how to like trust myself and like enjoy myself just with myself without depending on other people. And that's something cool. And like it's easier to like step out of my comfort zone when I know I have myself like backing me up, you know? So it's nice because like 5 years ago, you would tell me like I need to take a flight back home by myself. I'd be like, oh my God, like I don't even know where to go, like what gate I should take or whatever. And now I'm like, take a flight. Like, oh, fine. Like, I don't care. It's so easy. Like, and everything like that is, yeah, way easier now.
Very last question. If you could give any piece of advice to that younger freshman year self, what would it be?
Trust the process. um, yeah, just trust the process and enjoy yourself.
What specifically about trusting the process is it?
Just committing to it and believing that you can do whatever you want if you follow your like plan and like the goals you set up, like the small goals that are leading to the big one.
In a way, is it delusional, do you think? Like, do you, in a way, have to convince yourself that it's possible? Be like, something that I get blamed about a lot is like I'm unrealistically an optimist in a way. Like I'm an unrealistic optimist of like, oh, it'll turn out better than like it is possible, all these things. But I think if you're not that way, then you're not going to be able to accomplish it. It's like that saying that like the people that think they can and the people that think they cannot are usually both right. Like, do you think
Yeah.
that's the first step? You just have to be delusional enough to believe that it is
Yes.
possible?
Yes. I think it's important to believe like the goals you're setting up for yourself, like you should be able to like fully believe you can achieve them. Otherwise it's just gonna be there. And like you know deep inside that you're trying to like trick yourself. So it's not gonna work. Like you won't be able to like achieve them if you don't believe you can actually achieve them.
So it's not being delusional, it's just you know that you can, so go out there and do it
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, maybe being delusional helps to some people, but no, it's not gonna help me. Because I just know I'm like in my mind, I'm like, no, I'm just lying to myself, you know, like it's not gonna work.